G'day everybody. Here we are in the bush again, and I thought I'd do another Forest Thoughts video. And today is October 21st, so it's 8 days since the last video, and here we are up in the forest again. Finn's here. We've come up for another Movember practice walk. Since the last time I made a little video, I've been to California and Seattle on the west coast of the US, and it was really fascinating, and I thought I'd just share a bit of my experience there with you, and some of the thoughts I had while I was there. But I just want to make a special mention to you, Sonia, who has been walking up the mountain too, from her house not far from here, up to St. Serg. I got a message today from a friend of ours, or a friend of mine, Anne-Marie, who said she's walking up the mountain too from where she lives to St. Serg. And so we've got all these people walking in nature, and she says, you know, she's doing it so she can walk with me later in a few weeks' time for Movember. So it's really wonderful to think of all of, you know, my friends and you, Sonia, and I know others go out walking in nature. Phil sent me a great pictures the other day from his walks. There's just something special about it. It's a beautiful day again today. I've come up a bit further today to make the video. I'm heading up this way to La Dole, and I'm more in the cypress, the spruce forest here. Not cypress. I was in cypress forest the other day. I'm in the spruce forest here, and we've still got some beautiful autumn colours around. I've come up through that, but we're getting into the higher country now, so the spruce forest is coming in. And I just thought I'd sit here amongst these magnificent trees. But back to my week in California and in Seattle. It was really fascinating. I'd been invited to go over there to participate in a workshop. It was called Transforming Conservation. And about 30 people were invited to come to a place and talk there amongst ourselves as like a workshop. It wasn't PowerPoint presentations, it was a real group discussion. Some really bright people, amazing people doing incredible work trying to conserve species here on our planet Earth, both marine and terrestrial. A lot in Africa, people looking at species there and looking at how they could make their work more effective. It was great. I'm going to reflect a little bit more on what happened there and the way the workshop unfolded. But one of the things that fascinated me was that we didn't really talk about transforming conservation in a time of climate change. And a few people put their hand up and said, shouldn't we be talking about this in the light of climate change? It's clearly coming now, and how is that going to affect our work? And it was sort of, no, we don't need to do that. Don't we just have to double down our efforts? It surprised me a little bit because we were there to meet together to talk about how we could make our efforts more effective. And yet here we were, we just have to work harder. And most of the people there are people who are really already working hard. And I'd say a lot of them are probably close to burnout. I don't know, they didn't say that, but I just know them to be fantastic people who do a lot of hard work. And just to think that they've just got to work harder, double down in fact, I don't think that's the answer. A whole lot of burnt out conservationists isn't going to save many species. So what I felt really leaving the workshop was that there wasn't a lot of duck present, and it was all about expert thinking up here, a bit like the great important conversation panel of Michael Looning that I have on my wall, where no ducks are allowed. And after 2.5 days together, the walls in this massive room, all the panels which had been empty when we came in, were filled with text that a lovely lady had scribed down as everyone spoke. And we filled up some of the panels ourselves with our expert thinking about what was going to happen. But not in the light of climate change, and all from our head. I didn't get the sense that there was a lot of thinking from the soul there present. I think the ducks were present, but they weren't invited into the room. And I'm going to ponder how I can give that feedback to the organisers without sounding like, A, I'm some sort of critical bugger, but B, I'm some sort of, you know, spiritual doodah. I don't know. I think I can find a way. I think it's needed. So that was a reflection. What was great though was there I was amongst the redwood forest. The meeting was held in a summer camp place which had a big area of redwood forest connected to it. So I was very lucky to be able to go for some walks in this redwood forest. And it was an interesting redwood forest because it wasn't a virgin forest. It had been logged over about 80 years ago, was what people told me. And here were all these stumps with all of the board marks in it where the people had felled the trees with the hand saws, not with chainsaws. They didn't exist back then. And here were all these magnificent groves of trees around the stump, springing up from the stump. But these magnificent groves of trees circling around the stump. And they'd actually shot up from the roots of the killed tree, the tree that had been felled. And yet here they were all growing back, and some of them were really big, big trees like this, but wall-to-wall trees growing back. And it gave me a lot of hope in one way that nature can come back. And we've seen that with our work in the tropics, where if you just leave it alone, it can come back. And I'm got a strong feeling that when the forest was felled 80 or so years ago, it probably wasn't done in a very beautiful way. They just ripped through, and this was the history of the logging industry through that part of the world and everywhere else in the world really. They just ripped through. Not a lot of thought to forest management. But here these magnificent trees were coming back, and I get a strong sense that if only they could be left alone, they'll come back into a magnificent cathedral forest. They're coming like that now. It was really a beautiful place to be. But I worry that they won't be left alone, and of course, with impending climate change, there's a real problem going on right up the Californian coast, right up the west coast of the US, the Pacific Northwest, that a lot of the redwoods are dying of drought, because of drought and heat. So got my fingers crossed for those beautiful trees. After that I went to Seattle to see the TFT team there, and that was great. And flying into Seattle is just so breathtaking. Puget Sound, Rick, that's where you're from. Such a beautiful part of the world, but also very strongly touched by the hand of man in places, but a lot of wilderness there as well. I must get back out there. So really, these were my reflections. I really think that, and I talked to the team, I must say that I talked to the team there about this, my experience at the Transforming Conservation workshop that I had, where there were just no ducks present. And I honestly feel that we've got to have more of that. We've got to get down and talk about what we're going to do as climate change comes. And just this idea that we'll just work harder isn't really going to make it, I don't think. And I think it's just head in the sand stuff. We've got to discuss the potential large-scale extinction. We're having a mass extinction now. We need to talk about it in the terms of what's going to happen when climate change arrives. So I think that was a missed opportunity. I think it's something that we all should think about. Not to get despairing and depressed about it, but just think, how are we going to work through this? Because I think if we talk about it, and some of you, I hope, managed to read the "If I Start Crying, Don't Stop Me" post that I did last week. If we start talking about these things and embracing the despair, maybe we can come out with some solutions. And maybe we can think of, if we don't even come with solutions, maybe we can cope with what's coming our way in a better way, in a more human way. That's my hope. Anyway, I've got to get on up the mountain. Finn's having a bit of a wander around. So look, it's great to talk to you. This one's a bit longer than last week's, but I hope to be able to make another video for you next week and just share these thoughts. Absolutely fascinated by your comments. If you've got some comments to make on the video or some reflections, Skylar, thanks very much for your comments last week. If any of you have got some comments or reflections, please do share them with me. I really value the discussion, and it helps me a lot as I go around to hear what other people think. So I look forward to hearing more about your own walks up the mountains or around rivers or around lakes or wherever you guys walk, and I hope you have a chance this week and in future weeks to get out in nature. Very blessed I am to live here in Switzerland to be able to do it. I hope all you guys can too. All right, so look, have a great day and have a great week coming up. Thanks very much. See you later.